Hi, Kelly.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. And I'll give everybody another minute to see who
Yeah,
joined.
I think so. Yeah.
Hi, good afternoon. Oh my gosh.
Hi.
Is Lisa on, our
I
trainer?
am. I'm
Oh,
here.
good. Thank
Hey,
you,
Banana.
Lisa. I didn't
Long
get a
time no
chance to
see.
eat, did you?
No, I'll eat after this. Yeah. Oh, good.
Lynette, I'm waiting for Sean
Yeah.
to see you. Yeah, give him
Okay.
a minute or two. Okay, well, I think since we have a pretty full agenda, I'll we'll give if Sean attends, then great. I'll make a note of it when he does jump on Bennett. But otherwise, yeah, good afternoon, everybody. I wanted to thank you all for joining the Performance Management and Technology Committee meeting. And call the meeting to order right sharp at 1:30. Um, I'm Kelly Uyoka, the chair of the Performance Management Technology Committee. And I was mentioning earlier, we're waiting for Sean Knox as vice chair. Um, I, I believe he was going to join, so I'll just make a note of that if he does pop in. And as everybody knows, public meeting under the open meeting law. I believe everybody's attending remotely besides the staff at Department of Labor Industrial Relations. So with that, start the meeting, and to document in the minutes, I'll ask members and guests to introduce themselves with their name and organization. So maybe I'll just uh, go from left to right on the Zoom, if that's okay. I'll start with you, Matt Stevens.
Hi, everyone. Matt Stevens, Executive Director with the Hawaii Workforce Funders Collaborative.
Thank you. And then I'll ask Melissa from SAFL to introduce herself.
You mean me, Lisa?
Yeah, sorry, Lisa.
Oh my God,
Lisa.
I'm
Yeah, sorry. I don't know why I had Melissa on in my.
first of all, it says Soffle Zoom too, so that might be a problem, right? Hi.
Yeah.
So I have luckily met a lot of you. I am Lisa Rice. I am one of Soffle Partners subject matter experts. And you have to excuse me, it's 5:30 my time, and I've been going since like 6 o'clock this morning. So there you go.
Thanks, Lisa. Sorry about that. And
It's okay.
yeah. David Mishiro.
Aloha, everyone. I'm David. I am the Executive Director of Hawaii Kids Can, which is a local nonprofit organization, and I've been serving on the Youth Services Committee.
Thanks, David. Terry Mishiro.
Carrie Miyashiro, Chair, Sector Strategies and Career Pathways.
Thanks, Carrie. Della Teraoka.
Hi, I'm Della. I'm the interim vice president for community colleges at UH.
Thanks. And then Christine.
I'm Christine Boley, the University of Hawaii System Director of Workforce Development.
Thanks, Christine. Laurie.
Good evening. I haven't met any of you folks so far. Laurie Larea. I am with National Association of Workforce Boards, working on the Next Level Now collaborative with Lisa Rice and the people at SAFL and Third Sector, and happy to be here and good to join you this evening.
Thank you. And then Adele.
Good afternoon, Adele Monero with Workforce Development Division on Kauai, AJC, Branch Manager.
Thanks, Adele. Carla. sorry, Carla Kurokawa. I think she's having an issue with her audio and video. Harrison.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Harrison Koronishi, Oahu Workforce Development Board.
Thanks, Harrison. And then Suzanne.
Aloha, Suzanne Schultz, Chief Operating Officer with Aloha United Way.
Thank you. And then Lynn.
Hi, everyone. Lynn Araki Regan, Administrative Services Officer for DLIR. Thanks.
Thanks, Lynn. And then I think I see Vice Chair Knox just joined. So Sean, are you there?
Hello, everyone. Sean Knox, Vice Chair.
Hey, Sean, thanks. Okay, I think that's everybody. And so, yeah, on the agenda, I think you noticed the first item was the training with Lisa and Safo. And, we wanted to focus it on the performance measures, so that when we review on a quarterly basis and, especially for this committee, we want to arm ourselves with an understanding of how the numbers are derived. And then also, since a lot of the committee members, and others might not have the wherewithal to go dig, deep into the mechanics of that, we still need to understand, be able to know enough as to what we're monitoring and understand performance. And I think taking it a step further, it's like, how do we know that we're doing well, from a council perspective? And, for some of those who have attended prior meetings, you can see the numbers and, why certain regions appear differently from others. I think gaining an understanding of why that's happening and perhaps how we can improve would be very valuable, especially for the performance management committee. So, yeah, with that, sorry, Lisa, I don't know why the agenda we had Melissa down, but
Yeah,
Well,
initially it was Melissa. Yeah.
yeah, it was supposed to be Melissa, but
Oh,
she's
okay,
ended up
okay.
not being able to join. Hence why I brought along another expert with me, Lori. So
Oh, yeah.
are you ready?
Yes. Yeah. So with that, I think we're wanting to do a little bit of training along the lines of what I was saying. So yeah, please take it away.
Okay, great, guys. So we are going to try to cover this fairly quickly. It is not an in-depth kind of view at performance, but we are here to answer any kind of questions that you may have. So if you don't even think of them right now, but you think of them later, you can always shoot those to us. Bennett, you can give them to her. She can shoot them to us. No problems whatsoever. All right, let's get started. First of all, as I said, I have Lori with me. She already introduced herself, so you guys know that. By the way, you're going to get this PowerPoint, so you will have our email addresses there as well in the PowerPoint. And I think we're also in the calendar invite. 14 items in 15 minutes, because I was told 15 minutes, right? So this is going to be, like I said, down and dirty, you guys. We're not going to go that in depth on everything. But let's start a little bit with, just like, why do we even have performance indicators and what are they doing here for us? So they are meant to be able to give you some kind of a dashboard that says, here's how well you're doing. Right? You can measure how well you're doing against last year. You can measure against other people. There's all sorts of ways you can do this. It's also supposed to be a way that you can see, maybe we're missing out on something. So it gives you an idea of ways that you can improve as well. Now, under WIOA, you are mandated to actually have accountability for workforce programs performance measures. That means that if somebody is tanking in your area, if a local board isn't doing well, you guys at the state board level are supposed to be responsible for saying, hey, you're not doing so well. What's going on? How can we help you? Get them the technical assistance they need, which does mean you have to have a clue about what's going on with these measures. You're also supposed to be making sure that you have a good understanding of all of the WIOA requirements that go into performance measures. And by that goes into things like data validation and stuff like that. Okay, that's what I'm talking about there. And then this is a big one. These are common measures for your core programs. Okay, so that's pretty big here because these are all of your core programs. Now, I'm sure you guys knew about adult, dislocated worker, and youth in here, but not always do we realize that adult education is in there, Vocational rehabilitation is in there. Actually, they're in there twice on this one. I like that. Sorry about that. Weren't supposed to be. That was actually also supposed to say that Wagner Pizer has a piece in this as well, because if Wagner Pizer is not involved, then, they're the front door, right, for the whole system. So you've got to have them involved as well. And your educational systems. So the universities and the community colleges, in particular community colleges, also have these performance measures that they are now looking at. All right, so let's talk a little bit about what performance measures are. So first of all, it looks at employment rates. And I'm going to tell you one thing in particular. Everything about your performance measures is a lag, okay? They are not real time, they are a lag. So you have to get really good at analyzing what has happened in the past in order to predict what you're going to do in the future with these things. Or you have to set up some kind of a system where you can see what they are real life, real time. There are entities that do this for you, so there's ways to go about that. If you guys decide you want to look at real-time information, you could let us know. We could give you some ideas of who can provide that kind of information to you or that service. So we look at employment rates. That's talking about, were they employed at the second quarter and the fourth quarter after they exit, okay? Everything we look at basically is second and fourth quarter, it feels like. So earnings, second quarter, fourth quarter, because what we're trying to do is we're trying to see, are they still working? Did they get a wage gain? How well are we doing in this system there? Credential attainment. If you put them into any kind of a training, did they get some kind of a nationally recognized credential? That's about portability, basically. Can they take it somewhere else? A measurable skills gain. This one is almost always a sticky one because people are like, well, how do I measure, how do I know this? It's a lot of times it's around like a TABE test, a test of adult basic education, TABE. So like if they come in and they start to work with you and they have a 6th grade level math, and by the time they finish working with you, they've got 8th grade level math, that's a measurable skill gain, okay? So that's the kinds of things that you're looking for in there. And then this last one is kind of a newbie one on here, and it's about the effectiveness in serving employers. And in particular, what is happening with that is they're looking at the retention with the same employer. So are you able to not only work with an employer, but are you able to keep with them? And that is still kind of in that gray area of, is that where they're going to stay, especially with WIOA being reauthorized. That one in particular could really change, okay? But all of these measures are meant to say, how effective is your state or your local area in actually providing the services and getting positive outcomes. This is the way that they like to measure it. In the system, we'd like them to measure different ways. So I want to make sure that you guys know that at the state level, if you want to look at something else across your entire state, you can do that. You can ask, and not even ask, you can just say, we're going to start looking at XYZ as a performance measure that we want everybody to comply with. You need to have a regular kind of evaluation. I love that you've already started looking at numbers. This is great. You need to kind of keep looking at these measures to see, are they improving? Are they kind of, declining for some reason? What is that reason? Have you never even looked at one, or it's never moved anywhere? Then maybe you need to do some more focus on that area. So there are some performance reporting requirements that you have. And this is where I get back to that data validation, okay? So if you are not collecting accurate data, it's garbage in, garbage out, right? We've all heard that. So in your local system, you should be able to be gathering all of the demographics, all of the funding streams that are helping them, remembering that several funding streams can help one person. You need to be capturing what those funding streams were doing for each one. And then when that data is coming in, then those performance, you asked how does this come together, right? Well, the performance indicators are all calculated based on the data that comes in. So again, when the data comes from the locals into the state and the state passes it to the feds, that is now the performance information that the feds have. If it's not accurate, then we're not showing a good picture. And that I don't know how much more I can emphasize accuracy here in data collection. And as you can see, there's several different methods to use. Most people use what we call the administrative records, which is usually some kind of an MIS system where you're inputting, here, I just saw Sally today, here's what is going on. She's a new customer, we're gonna get her into training. They're doing case notes, okay? Those case notes result in all of this performance information. So that's another piece that a lot of people struggle with. For instance, you've helped somebody, you've given them training, they've gone on to work, and now suddenly you can't get a hold of them. And it's 2 quarters after exit, and you cannot get a hold of them to see if they are still employed, find out if they got a wage increase or something like that. This is a big point of contention for a lot of folks. So we always emphasize here that you make sure that you are getting multiple ways to contact with people. Bennett, I have a feeling you have a question right now.
I do. I actually, and thank you for giving an overview. We have in the room, as I'm looking at the number of the participants in this call, folks who may not have as much of a, we have the spectrum of, knowledge, right? So we do have our EDs and our managers, but we also have board members who are outside of WIOA but they have in their own capacity, in their own sphere of influence, grapple with, performance indicators. So I'm kind of curious whether you would allow me to share our PY 2023
that would be great.
Performance measures, right? And then that way they can look at it, and because one of the things that when I'm looking at employment rate, they don't realize that it may be that actually of the people who are enrolled, this is how many have been employed in the second quarter, and that's what it means. Because it doesn't really, unless you see the report. So
yes,
may
that's
I
a great idea, Bennett. Yes,
okay,
please
the
do.
report that we have, here we go.
Yes.
And I am sharing an Excel spreadsheet, so I don't know how
it's tiny.
it is too. Yeah, I'm gonna make it bigger. Hang on. View. Zoom. Okay, is it bigger?
That's nice. Yes,
okay.
That's good.
Okay, so go ahead. So this is the one that just ended June 30, 2020. Oh, I guess 24? Wait.
No, it would have been 23.
23.
Should have been 23. You
but
have
that's
PY 23.
2023, right? So that just ended.
Okay. It just
we're
ended.
now on PY 2024 started July 1, right?
Yes.
So this ended June 30, 2024.
And so this is looking backwards again, as I said, we always look backwards. So for instance, when you look at, your employment rate for Q2, right? We were just talking about employment rates is one of them. They always break it up, and I love that you have this here, by adult, dislocated, youth. We don't have to scroll, we can stay right here. But you negotiate. So you've gone through that negotiation process, which should technically start from the locals up to the state and then to the feds. It doesn't always follow that way. Most of the time it goes state to feds, and then the state goes back to the locals and says, here's what we negotiated. Here's your piece that you have to do. Okay. So when you look at this, you negotiated, there we go, 60% on your employment rate at Q2. You guys have done really well. You're at 75%. That's really good. There's that little devil, the one that's in red down there, that measurable skills gain. I'm telling you, this is not an easy thing for people to capture. So don't feel bad. It's just that you've got to look for other ways to try to figure out, how do we capture this? How do we know that they completed their training? Your schools should be giving you that kind of thing. How do we know that they actually, increased in their TABE? Well, if you guys aren't actually, you at the local level aren't actually giving the TABE assessment, who is? And get that information from them. This goes back to a lot about data sharing. Do you have those agreements in place to be able to share the data? All of your performance really goes back to the data, okay? So if you're looking at these measures right now, you guys aren't in too bad of a place for where you were. I will tell you, dislocated workers as well, getting them employed 4 quarters later is not always easy, because they've been dislocated a lot of times for a reason. Now, you had wildfires, so you probably had a huge increase in the number of dislocated workers. So when your pool of people goes up with being dislocated, and then now you're still trying to get them into work, but you can't keep them into work. Maybe they went into temporary work, right? For that first couple of quarters, helping to clean up from the wildfires, that kind of stuff. Then they would be employed, right? But if they end that temporary job and now at 4th quarter, they're not employed, now's the time to be able to say to people, in some fashion, come back and get services from us again, so we can help you get reemployed in here. Good job. I'm going to pause too and see if you have any questions, just with what you're seeing on the screen and also what I've talked about so far.
Yeah, Lisa, I have a question. Sorry, I think Bennett has one too. She's on mute. But so what you're referencing in terms of that measurable skills gains metric, yeah, you're talking about tracking, not being able to track it accurately versus actually achieving the negotiated rate, right?
And so to achieve your negotiated rate, you have to track it accurately, and you actually have to have
You have to do it.
achieved it. You
Yeah.
have to have achieved it. Yeah.
So
And
for
let's
that,
think about this. You have people who drop out. So measurable skills gain, they go into school, they drop out. You're not going to get the measurable skills gain necessarily. Lori, do you want to add anything in on the measurable skills gain in particular?
Just a note, this is a relatively new area and many boards
Mhm.
are struggling with trying to meet it. A lot of the problem is we did not track it since inception. Since 2014, we weren't sitting here saying, oh, we got to look out for measurable skills gain. The only program we were close to would be the AEL or the youth, but having to do this with dislocated workers and adults is quite difficult. I do note that your low performance numbers of 614 customers that were actually served, you missed the goal by 51 people. Well, that's a small issue, right? From 46% to 55. So it could also be record keeping. It could have been data entry errors. If the vendors are not on point to report, and if no compensation is attached to it, if the schools do not understand, they must report the gains in academics or gains in skill, then maybe that's got to be reiterated. So it's a technical assistance for the vendors, the staff, and the AJCs. Go ahead, Bennett.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No.
Finish your talk.
I'm fine.
Okay, so I'm learning this as as we go along,
Yeah.
and I'm hearing that credential rate should be very closely tied into measurable skills gain. That if we're doing the appropriate
Yes.
data entry, they should be very similar numbers. But the fact that we have a 63% credential rate and then a measurable
Mhm.
skills gain of 46 means it's a data entry challenge. Is that correct?
It could be. I would analyze it, work with the people who are data entering, the people that are serving. It could be that you've not properly recorded where measurable skills gains
Yes.
are achieved.
Mhm.
And that can be credentials they understand. That's, each time you ding the bell and you get a credential. Measurable skills gains is a little trickier, and I think they inserted it in the program for exactly that purpose. It's a more measured approach to whether or not we're going to get a sustainable increase in skill or academics.
Just so you know, we're exploring the possibility of getting TA for that as well, so that then the data entry folks can be properly acculturated to
Good.
doing the data work.
I strongly support tying the performance of the schools, the training providers to this measure and making sure that they understand it is part of their performance as well. You'll be
You can tie
surprised how
'em-
fast that'll increase.
Yeah, you can tie them to both the credential
Yes.
rate and the measurable skills rate. And so what that means is that your local areas, when they are making contracts with the eligible training providers on the list, and they are going to send somebody to school, they need to have a contract that says that you are going to be responsible for making sure that you hit these kinds of performance measures. They need to know that they have data sharing. You put that into the contract. And we can easily provide to the EDs and others, you know, like a example of a contract that other workforce boards have
That's
used
a
for
very good
this.
point.
Yep.
Yeah, could you also note about the median and versus average? That, yeah,
On the
people,
earnings?
right,
Mhm.
people make that mistake.
Mm-hmm. So, and I'm never really good at this either, but when I look at the median earnings, I always thought of it as all the people that we help, some are getting lower, some are getting higher. What's the middle? Not the average. What's the middle? And so I always used to mess around with that too, because how much different is the average from the middle? But that's the way I looked at it. Did that help?
Yeah, I just
So
wanted to note
again,
that for the
yeah.
benefit of our folks who are not as familiar.
And again, putting people into things that are not just low entry wages, but those bridge jobs that go from the low to the maybe higher wage, that's where the sweet spot is to get more of your median earnings happening there. Good.
Yeah, sounds good. I can stop sharing because
Okay,
there's a
cool.
part of our agenda where I'm gonna go through this anyway.
Okay, cool. All right, you stop. I'll start back up again. Okay. So, I want to take you to the next page here because this page is extremely important to you guys. First of all, Teagle 1016 Change 3 gives you information about performance measures and how they're accounting for them and just all of the details. So if you're a workforce geek, that's the Teagle for you to read. Teagle is a training employment guidance letter that comes out from the Department of Labor. Okay. But the other two that I've put in here, I love these two because if I want to look at what's the national data for adults and earnings, right? I can go to one of these. I can go to the national one and look at that. If I want to know what's happening in my state, I can go to the state one and look at what's happening there. So I went to your state one. And this is just one of the pieces that you can get out of that state one, okay? So I know it's hard to read, but this is Hawaii. This is actually for the period of July 1, 2022 to June 30th, 2023, okay? And it is Wagner Pizer. I just pulled the first one. You can tell which title it is by up here in these little boxes on the right-hand side. But you can, when you go to the site, you can select, do I want to know Wagner Pizer or adult or whatever, right? And it shows you how many participants were served, how many exited. So when we talk about exited the program, that means you've finished providing them services. All right. That's an important thing to note because you may, quote, exit them and they come back to you within, let's say, 30 days, 60 days, and they need additional services. Then you have not truly exited them according to the US Department of Labor. So until you've stopped finishing, stop providing those services, you haven't truly exited them. I know that's confusing because that could mean, oh my God, we're carrying somebody forever if they keep coming back. And the reality is, yes, you could, if they knew that much to keep coming back like that. So then you get to see how much was expended and how much of a cost per participant. I always love looking at cost per participant because this is one way for you to understand how effective are you with doing your services, right? Then the other thing that I've put over here on the side is your Hawaii 2020 census information. And I put DLIR's link to their unemployment data. And the reason that I put both of those there for you is because you can't just go off of this state level data that's provided, right? You need to look at, well, what does our census data look like? If we're looking at our census data and you see demographics that you want to target, because remember, this gives you all the demographics, male, female, their ages, and down below it goes into ethnicity, right? So if you see an area that you want to make sure that you're targeting from your census information, and now you come back into your data for adult, dislocated, whatever, and you don't see that you're serving that population, those are points where you start to question things. So this is looking at more than just the performance data that the net has been showing you, which the performance data she's been showing you is excellent. You need to look at that, but I want you to think a little bit bigger, okay? And then when you look at the DLIR report about the unemployment data, there you can look at maybe some more strategic ways you could serve specific populations, but you'll be able to see, what is your unemployment rate? You guys are right now at a 3.2% unemployment rate. That's pretty low, you guys. As a matter of fact, years ago, we used to say if you were at 3%, you were at full employment, which we found through multiple different things that's not necessarily true, that you can go down much lower, but you have more difficulty under 3% because the people have more challenges, okay? They have barriers, they have transportation, they have childcare, they have housing issues, they have all sorts of things. So when you are looking at this, at this rate of 3.2%, I want to make you aware that you are not getting those who are what we call discouraged workers. So a discouraged worker is someone who was looking for a job and they've decided that they're not going to look for it anymore, maybe because they don't see any that they qualify for, or they don't see any jobs that are, in their fields. So they go, well, there's nothing out there for me. So they kind of stop looking for work. So they don't get counted in here. And that could be something that is happening to you because the wildfires, you had a lot of people misplaced, right? Displaced, I should say, and then temporary work. And then now what, right? Now where are they? Are they back in work? I doubt it because not all of your renovations, repair, all of that has occurred. So keep in mind that you might have a larger number of unemployed people. They're just not out there looking for work. So that also relates to you having to look at different outreach mechanisms to get those who are discouraged to come back in. And I'm going to give you two other resources that I think that you should definitely look at. And there are different places that you can, get this information and get help with this. But Dun & Bradstreet does a really good job of giving you your local information, economic trending, unemployment rates, you name it, all of that good stuff. And then the Federal Reserve banks, they have a lot of information as well about workforce because that's kind of like one of their indicators for how the economy is going to go. Okay, moving us along. So one of the things you need to think about, and we've already kind of said this, is that you need to be continually improving. So when you're looking at your data, you are looking for how do we enhance our services? Where do we need to, just like we were just talking about, measurable skills gains? What could we do more to get that happening there? You need to start using the data to make your decisions for strategically, what does the board want to go after? And when you start to use success stories that are coming from the workforce, it emphasizes the performance data. So if you have a success story from someone who was helped, who's now gone from a $7 an hour job and they're now in a $20 an hour job, which trust me, I've seen happen, that's a huge success story. But you won't know that if you're not having success stories submitted and if people aren't gathering the data the right way. So some challenges, as I said, data collection and the overall analysis of it can really be a challenge too. But there may be some stakeholders who are kind of like your education, I don't know. They may say, I don't want to give you this data. I'm not interested in it. We haven't had to do that before. Why should I have to do extra work? So that could give you some challenges there. And again, just data accuracy. I don't know how many times I put that in here, probably 50 million. Okay. In your changes, the key changes in the TEAGL, the one that I'm gonna focus on is that in that one, it does talk about the effectiveness in serving employers. And it really enhances kind of some of the clarity around what they mean by it, what they want you to be looking at. And again, it's that retention. How do you get them? How do you keep them? Kind of thing. All right. So when we look at what should you be doing, as a guidance for your state and local areas around performance, first thing that we recommend is review that TEAGL. Make sure that you understand what's going on in it. Make sure you understand that effectiveness for employers, for one thing, and then start to implement some different methodology that's in the TEAGLs. And look for different ways to maybe get some leading indicators on your performance indicators. Biggest thing, train your staff, right? Train them on data entry, train them on any new policies that come out, any TEAGLs updates to performance, train them. And then do random checks too, by the way, to make sure that it actually stuck, okay? And then on the reporting practices, we say that you should definitely be doing some regular reviews. You're doing that here. Start to share your results more publicly, even so that you're holding yourself accountable to the world, basically. I've seen a lot of boards put their performance information up on their websites so that you can see easily how are they doing. And again, use any of your analysis and the findings that you have to try to improve what you are doing. Okay, I'm going to pause and see if there's any questions. And I know I've probably gone way past my 15 minutes, and I apologize.
That's okay. I think it's important. Are there any questions?
I know that that Lisa will send this out, but just
Yes.
for clarification, the TEAGL is Training and Employment Guidance Letter. Yeah, that's issued from Department of Labor, right? Is readily available, to dive into. So
Yeah.
I think this is linked to that, right, for people.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Anywhere you see these little blue kind of underlined things, that's linked right directly to it. We try to do that for you on everything. And speaking of linking, we have a little bit of resources for you to go to as well. And the first one, utilizing performance metrics in program and partnership development, that was one that we actually did through the Next Level Now. It's an excellent webinar. It gives you really good information on how they took their performance data and started to make some different decisions based on what they saw. And then there's also on Workforce GPS, just how does the performance actually work? And trust me, again, that's another really deep dive for you. And once again, if you didn't see it earlier in the slide, we still give it to you right here, TEAGL 1016.
Lisa, if I could, there's one thing
Yes.
that I would strongly recommend. You don't have to wait for the data for next year. Your data analyst at the state level can forecast quarter by quarter. They've already got many of the terminees already in the system. I was noting on one of the other measures, you were one person off. That probably was a data entry, but you don't have to take those hits if we stay on top of it throughout the year. So all is not done. There's plenty to be done in the forecasting and watching as you go to make sure you're at least giving credit for all things that are being accomplished.
And to your point, Laura, about how one person can make a difference, especially for a small base like Hawaii, for instance.
Yes.
One person is like 50%.
Yeah.
If there's only 2 participants, right?
Yeah.
Can I, if you can address something for me about how, according to the TEAGLE, there's actually some performance, what is the correct word? Consequences if after 3 quarters you're not, oh no, 3 years, right? Is it 3 years?
3 years.
3
Mhm.
years of successive non-performance, that there
2,
are
isn't it?
some.
Is it 2 or 3, Lori? I thought it was 2
It's 2
years.
consecutive years.
2 consecutive
and then
years.
after 1, you're in TA. After 2 years, you're on notice. But by the 3rd year, they could restructure the board or actually combine jurisdictions. There could be a lot of penalties.
But it's per category or the total? Are we talking?
It's
like
per measure. You
per
failed
measure.
the same measure for 2 consecutive years.
Yeah.
Okay.
So whenever we had a measure that was low in 1 year, it kind of became the focus. Like, how do you move that measure up, right? Because you don't want to hit it again. And so you might have put too many resources or too much focus. You raise that one up and then another one drops. It's a real game, you guys. This is a science here that you have to figure out how do you balance all of them. But the biggest thing that I've seen that makes a difference is the data entry training. Because if staff who's doing this work does not completely understand why I need to check this box for this person because it impacts us up the line, they don't know. They're just like, they're doing what they think they need to do. Yeah.
Good to know. Thank you.
And then I do have, you know me, I got a little survey. If you guys don't mind, pull out your phones, please. This is the way we get to keep doing work with you, by the way, because we get surveys from you. We can change our work. We can improve it. This is our performance metric. So just even if you don't have to fill it out right now, just pull it up on your phone, do the QR code, get it, and boom. Okay.
Okay.
I appreciate you guys so much. And I hope this hit what you wanted to hit. And if you want to dive deeper on any of them or on, you know, promising practices to increase your measurable skills gain or whatever, you guys just let us know and we will come in with all sorts of pieces for you. Okay?
Yeah, thanks, Lisa. Would it be okay, as we get a copy of the slides and that, I think it was the second slide where you articulated the measures.
Yes.
Would it be okay to inquire about what other state workforce development boards are doing and how they're tracking those metrics?
Certainly. We can help provide that information to you. Yes, not a problem.
Are you talking about how Hawaii is doing versus other states? Is that what I just wanted to get?
No. I was
Oh.
wondering if there's what other states are doing, to track the actual measures accurately. Because, especially with that one that came up for the credential skill gain.
Yeah, like what's
Sounds
their
like,
best practices for
how are
doing
they
that?
actually tracking it? And then how are they reporting it out to, for the
Mhm.
council or for anybody to review?
I do want to compliment you. Looking at what you achieved and what you negotiated with the feds, that's pretty good negotiation. So keep supporting the people who do the contract negotiation for you. Not everybody gets low goals.
That's
they
right.
keep going up and up for many of us. So just a thought. But yes, we'll look at boards that were already failing, thought they were going to be in trouble, but have bounced because they did the right.
Yep.
All right, well, thank you.
And then I get what you're asking for as well, Kelly, about what kinds of what are other state boards being given when they talk about performance. Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you, Lisa,
Okay.
Larry. And then, with that, I look forward to receiving the documentation. And before we get into the other discussion and Banette's executive report, I think, we wanted to reiterate that one of the responsibilities of the council is the, continuous improvement of the workforce development system in the state. And so oh yeah, sorry, with that, Bennett, I have a couple of slides, but the Performance Management Technology Committee, as part, participating in WIOA is kind of very much a part of that system. And so as a committee, we're tasked by Workforce Development Council to oversee and evaluate the performance outcomes of WIOA, Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act programs, in alignment with state and federal goals. And so, yeah, thanks, Bennett. We do this by setting performance standards, monitoring the key metrics, and then providing, actionable insights to optimize the workforce development services. And then the committee will collaborate, with stakeholders to identify the trends in performance, ensure accountability amongst, varying levels. And then I think to Lisa's point, during the training too, is to make data-driven recommendations that enhance the effectiveness and contribute to our state, the growth of our state. So, we hope that people agree that function is important, and since, Sean and I got in here, we're really wanting to understand, and, that's why the training is so critical, so that we know exactly what we're looking at. We understand how to, help if there's issues. So yeah, with that, if anybody had any questions, I think now's the time. Otherwise, I'll hand it over to Bennett for her executive director's report.
I'm going to leave you guys really quick. Aloha. And remember, just let us know if you need anything, okay?
Thank you,
Thank you.
Lisa. Thank you, Laura. Appreciate
Good
it.
meeting all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, everyone, aloha. This is our wanted to provide you some fiscal reports. Mahalo to ASO Lynn and her team for putting this together. Now I'm pulling this up as a Excel spreadsheet. Normally I would put it in a, but I wanted to make it. It's actually a spreadsheet, so I'm sharing the spreadsheet itself. So forgive me if, for instance, well, it's shared. Yeah, you're seeing it on screen.
No, sorry.
No, not yet. Okay. All right, hang on. How's that? Can you see it? Okay. Is it? Okay,
Yeah,
so,
big enough.
okay, so this is a snapshot of the fiscal reports that just ended June 30th, 2024. Okay, so what it is if you recall again, for every time the federal government provides us the necessary funds for WIOA, we have 3 years to spend it. 2 years of which are are given to the local areas, and then the rest are used by the state for program as well as administrative functions. So this fiscal report shows you the PY 2022. So it now is given back because the state, whatever the balance that the local areas did not spend, are sent back to the state, and the state has 1 year to expend the monies. Okay, so I think I've provided some reports in earlier meetings, but this one is as close to what we figured, because by the earlier reports, we didn't have some invoices yet that we haven't received it, although it was already spent. So this one really gives us a more accurate picture of how much those recaptured funds are. So as of, if you notice here, I'm not sure if you were seeing my cursor. Are you seeing my cursor? You are, okay.
Yes.
So in PY program year 2022, we had a total disbursement or funds allocated to us by the U.S. Department of Labor of 9.7 million. And this was how it was allocated by counties. So when at the end of June 30, 2022, this is how much the counties have spent. So as you can see, out of 4.9 million, Honolulu had spent 2.7, Hawaii out of 1.7, they spent 1.17. So on this third column, you will see the balance of how much is remaining. So at the end of June 30th fiscal year, albeit technically the closing is October, we had a balance of 3.9 million that went back from the local areas to the state. Okay. However, and this is where I wanted to make sure that this committee understands that. So these are the recaptured funds. You see the numbers from up there, it kind of just got put into this column. So the 3.9 is here. So out of that, we already have some commitments as to projects that we're hoping to do. So at the end of this, I am going to just go straight to the balances. So we have 1.5. That's actually the recaptured funds. Initially, I think we were reporting like 3 million or 2 million. I mean, sorry. So this is what it is. 3.9 million minus the expenditures and the encumbrances factors into 1.5 million. So that is the total number of, or the amount that the state has to expend before June 30th, 2025. Okay. So now this particular portion of the report shows you what the PY 2023 allocations are. So we're already, remember now, 3 years, right? We're already 1 year past the 2023. So we are in the middle of the second year. I'm not sure, hopefully you're catching. We're in the second year of the PY 2023. So far, so we have 8.6 million that was given to the counties. Out of that, this is how much they have spent. But remember now, it's starting in July, August, September. So very, only 3 months barely, or actually as of July. So the balance as of July is at 7.8 million. And we're going to be providing you with reports of that every committee report. So this is the Lahaina and what the total has been 15 million. They've spent 5 million, and then 9 million is actually the balance. However, from the 20+ million, it's now been reduced or modified to 10 million. So there's a process right now of modifying the contract so that then it would reflect the reduced allocation. Okay, so that's our. So this is the totals, but I want to show you the details. Okay, so let me see if I can zoom it. And just be patient because I'm, yeah. So this is our expenditure. So there's 2 columns here to note. One is expenditures or the program year 2022, and then this is for the program year 2023. Okay, so this is the one that we just were looking at, the PY 2022, and this is more the budget and the actuals based on what category, whether it be adult, dislocated worker, youth. Okay, so we can provide you with this information as well, and I will send that to you. But I also want to show you, okay, I'm going to stop sharing this part because I think this is important information. I'm going to share with you the performance metrics that Lisa was talking about. Okay. All right. So this is on a so this is PY 2023 performance measures. And this is statewide, the one you're looking at right now. So if you notice the red, this is where we have room for improvement. I think it was made mention, the measurable skills gain, and we're hoping that with some technical assistance, we're going to be able to overcome some of these challenges because it might be a data entry issue. So if you look at credential rate, we have, green, so we're performing there except for the youth. So again, we're focused on this. We're actually meeting on a regular basis, on a monthly basis with all the local areas, and there's very strong effort on everyone's part to make sure that there's going to be an improvement in the performance level for this year. And again, this is in the spirit of transparency. We're not trying to, make anybody look bad, but I think it's important, like Lisa said, to be transparent, to make sure we demarcate where we're at so that then hopefully as we improve, we can also see the progress that is being made. So for Hawaii County, you can see that their credential rate is the one that they need to improve. This is for PY 2023. But overall, I think all the islands are having a difficult time with youth participants, as you can see from the red. So this is Big Island. For Kauai, I think they recognize that there is some room for improvement for them as well. Although on the youth participants, on the employment rate, I don't know, I guess 100%. So whatever, how many number of people they had, both or all of them were employed. For the island of Maui, so we have credential rate and measurable skill gains that need improvement. The dislocated workers, there's some work that needs to be done there. And then again, the youth participant levels are at a rate where we need to, focus on it a little more. And again, for good measure, I think the service providers as well as our local boards are on this. And I think there's great effort to make sure that we are going to be meeting our targets for next year. This is Oahu. So measurable skill gains, again, it might be a data entry because they're meeting their credential rate, but not their measurable skills gains targets. So again, youth participants is an issue. This is for the Quest grant, and this is just by numbers. We have 341 participants on this from the state. And for the Lahaina fires, we had a total of 433 that came through and are now being given services from those two grants. So any questions? And again, I think I'm learning how to present this so that it's in bite-sized pieces and I'm not overwhelming you folks. So please provide me some insight, some input offline, and I'm happy to listen so that we can present these numbers so it means something to you folks and it's relevant. And so the performance metrics, by the way, is national. We can't tinker with that. That's something that was given to us by the U.S. Department of Labor. So any questions? Did I confuse you further? Clear as mud.
No, and I just had one question on the Maui allocation. So that's separate from what we're looking at for the expenditures at the county level, right, individually.
Yes, that's also separate from the ones if the state has expended funds, yeah.
Yeah,
So that's why, if you recall, the Ways and Means Committee chair was very, interested in this because whatever gaps that the federal government are not funding, it might fall upon the county as well as the state to fill those gaps. And they want to have a better understanding where we're at and how much resources need to be expended.
Okay. Thank you.
Any questions? Especially for those that are not as familiar with WIOA, it really would, please provide us the input. I'm gonna put David on the spot, David Miyashiro. Is this when I'm, explaining after listening to Lisa Rice, do you have a better perspective? Or are you familiar with this in the past? Because you've served on the youth committee in the past, right?
And I think for me, I don't think I'm confused so much as feel like the advocate part of my brain is like, okay, clearly we have some gaps to fill. What's next in terms of action steps to get to a place where we feel like the funds are having the intended purpose and are being appropriately used. So I guess that's where I feel like I keep trying to jump ahead in my brain. Just okay, you woke me up and now let's get to work.
So to that point, we are meeting starting this week actually, and we're going to be meeting on a monthly basis. So both the boards as well as the service providers are looking at these numbers on a monthly basis and making projections so that then before the problem gets bigger, let's kind of take a look at the trends and what are you doing and identifying those opportunities for those areas where they might be having some success, and then maybe identifying, like for instance, we talked about the data entry. We're going to have a technical assistance training because apparently the last one was a year ago. So we need to, make them more aware that how they input the data would really have a bearing on the performance of their local area. EDs, do you want to share a little bit about what you're doing? Because I think that needs to be, said that we're not twiddling our thumbs waiting for, whatever and not acting enough, because I think there's a plan of action. So if you can elaborate on that, Chantel, Clinton, or Harrison.
So yeah, so when you showed us the actual performance levels for Oahu, we started focusing on the pinks. And we do agree 100% that the measurable skills gain is a data issue, because I believe according to measurable skills gain, if there's any kind of knowledge increase, such as in the unions, they get a raise in pay, or they pass their tests, that actually signifies a measurable skills gain. Part of what we're doing is with the funding that we got, we've got a big youth push initiative going. I know you saw 51 participants there for the entire PY 23, but in PY 24, our first quarter, which is quarter 5, I believe we had about almost 40. So we're doing a little push. We're bringing in the employers, the WDC board members. There's a whole bunch of you guys that are helping us out. So thank you very much. And then the Oahu board is actually getting a little more active with our service providers.
Anyone else? But anyway, suffice it to say, David, that it is being looked at. It is something that keeps us up all night to, make sure that this performance levels is I told them it's not acceptable, so we're gonna try to improve it for next year or for this year. But you're right, and that's why I think needs to be some transparency so the committee knows about it. And if you have any ideas, we're happy to accommodate and listen to them, particularly for the youth, because you're part of the Youth Services Committee. And this will actually be shared with the Youth Services Committee as well. Okay.
Okay.
Any
Right.
other questions?
Yeah, if no other questions, Bennett, then I'll move on to
Sure.
announcements and comments, if any. So the public, everyone is welcome to announce any upcoming events, comment on relevant issues.
Oh, Chair, I'm gonna spend some time on my executive director's report.
Oh,
That was
sorry.
just-
I thought, oh,
yeah.
sorry. Oh, yeah.
That was just the
sorry, that was
fiscal report.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, please go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. Very quickly, because for many of you, this might be information that you've already heard from the other committees, but allow me to, for the sake of those who are not, who have not heard this yet, so please allow me to go over some of our highlights for this past quarter. Okay, let me just. Okay. So I wanted to provide you an update on our unified plan. We are pleased to announce that we're going to have a stakeholder summit, which we're calling a Synergy Summit on December 9, 2024. It will be at the Foreign Trade Zone building. It's really a bookend. In other words, when we launched the unified plan back in last year in October, we had gathered about 14 stakeholders to share with them the plans for the how to go about developing the unified plan. And now that we have it and it was approved by the U.S. Department of Labor, we now have the opportunity to implement it. So on December 9, we're going to present the plan, and at the same time, hopefully divide and conquer. Those people who are in the room would feel invested in putting forth the work. So at the end of the day, this really becomes not just a DLIR plan or, a public sector plan. It really is a collaborative effort amongst all the workforce development stakeholders in our state. I'm also happy to report that, we are continuing to work on the transition between WDD and WDC. We are meeting weekly and going over the roles and responsibilities. It is a laborious effort. It's a little more time, but I think at the end of the day, we're going to be able to feel comfortable in executing a memorandum of understanding, where there's no ambiguity as to who is responsible for what, and the roles and responsibilities are clearly delineated. In September, as you might have heard, it was Workforce Development Month, and we had the Future of Work Conference. Thank you to those of you who were able to attend. For those of you who were not able to attend, you missed out. We also were able to honor the workforce development heroes this year, and I think noteworthy to mention that David Lassner got the Lifetime Achievement Award, and then Senator De La Cruz got the Legislator of the Year award. So the next couple of months, we're going to have continuing the training academy for WIOA that's taught to us by SAFO, and we're hoping to have an economic trends webinar sometime in January. Here's our focus for the next quarter. Again, the unified plan implementation, the transition. We're continuing to work with our board committees, as we did here, to try to make sure we recalibrate and make sure they're aligned with the strategic plan. All the boards are going through the exercise of doing roundtable discussion, trying to, get from input from all their various stakeholders to see how can we stay relevant? How can the council continue to fulfill its role in this workforce development space? And last but not least, Chair, we are really, desirous in our focus on trying to improve the American Job Centers and really making them as, viable and making the community aware of how important they are and how, they can really provide services to those that need it. I think that's all I have is in terms of my report, Chair. I'm gonna give it back to you.
Okay, thank you.
Oh,
Bennett,
questions?
Yeah, any questions? Bennett? Okay, hearing none, then yeah, I'll move on to the announcements and comments, if any. So if there were any upcoming events or commentary on some of the issues that were not included in the meeting agenda, now would be the time to raise it, and please be advised that in compliance with the Sunshine Law, the committee can't discuss or act on issues that were not included in the agenda, but issues raised during this period may be included in a future agenda for the committee's consideration and discussion. So if any, I just ask comments be limited to about 2 minutes. So if anybody had anything, please, would be the time. Okay.
Just want to announce that Kauai has a job fair next week, Tuesday, at the Kauai War Memorial Convention Hall.
It's terrific. Okay, thanks, Adele. Anything else? Okay, if not, the next meeting tentatively scheduled for February of 2025, but I think the council staff is still finalizing the dates for all of the committee meetings, and it'll be held probably as a hybrid in person and via Zoom. We'll let everybody know if it's only on Zoom or if it's a hybrid. And yeah, with that, thanks for attending today. And if no further business, I'll adjourn the meeting at 2:41 p.m. So thank you, everybody. Have a good weekend.
Thank
Take care.
you. Okay, bye.